The anomaly. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the radiation spectrograph in the observation deck of the Helios Deep Space Research Station, her third cup of coffee growing cold beside her terminal. The readings made no sense, yet they hadn't changed in the past 6 hours. A massive surge of gamma radiation was approaching from the direction of the Carina Nebula, but its pattern was unlike anything she'd ever encountered. "Marcus, can you verify these readings?" She called out to her colleague, Dr. Marcus Patel, who was calibrating equipment across the lab. The quantum physicist put down his tools and made his way to her station, his movements slightly awkward in the station's reduced gravity. "That's impossible," he muttered, adjusting his glasses as he studied the wavelength patterns. "The emission spectrum is too ordered. Natural phenomena don't create radiation patterns this structured." Sarah nodded, pulling up additional data streams from the station's long-range sensors. "Look at the coherence. Whatever this is, it's artificial, and it's heading straight for our solar system." The discovery triggered an immediate response from Earth's scientific community. Within hours, every major observatory and research station in the system was tracking the approaching radiation source. The pattern grew stronger with each passing day, until finally, after 2 weeks of mounting tension, its source became visible. The object that emerged from the depths of space defied conventional description. It was massive, easily the size of a small moon, with a surface that seemed to ripple and flow like liquid metal. But what caught everyone's attention was the intense radiation it was emitting, levels that would have killed any human crew aboard a normal spacecraft. "It's a ship," Sarah announced during the emergency conference call with the United Earth Science Council. "The radiation signature is clearly from some form of propulsion system, but they're making no attempt to contain it. Either their shielding technology is far beyond ours, or they don't need it," finished Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the Council's chief xenobiologist. "Their biology must be fundamentally different from ours." The alien vessel came to a stop just beyond Mars' orbit, and for 3 tense days, humanity waited. When the first transmission arrived, it took the world's best quantum computers less than an hour to decode it. "Greetings, anomalous ones," the message began. "We are the Nevaran Collective, and you present us with an impossibility. We have observed your world for some time but dismissed it as uninhabitable. No sentient species could evolve in such extreme radiation conditions. Yet here you are, not only surviving but thriving in an environment that would kill most known forms of complex life. We request dialogue." The revelation stunned the scientific community. Earth, with its radioactive core, its constant bombardment of solar radiation, and its naturally occurring radioactive elements, was considered a death world by galactic standards. Humans hadn't evolved despite their planet's radiation. They had evolved because of it. "They want to establish contact," Sarah explained to the hastily assembled first contact team. "But they need special shielding just to survive our normal background radiation. We're going to have to build a facility that can accommodate their biology." Construction began immediately on what would become known as the Twilight Chamber, a specially shielded meeting facility where humans could safely interact with the Nevarans. Sarah found herself at the center of the project, working to create an environment that would protect their visitors from what humans considered normal radiation levels. The day of first contact arrived 3 weeks later. Sarah stood with the Earth delegation as the Nevaran representatives entered the chamber. They were tall, crystalline beings whose bodies seemed to absorb and redirect light, creating rainbow-like patterns in the air around them. Even with the chamber's heavy shielding, they wore additional protective suits. "We must admit, the Nevaran speaker's words were translated through a quantum interface. We are still adjusting to the reality of your existence. Your species has not only survived in conditions we consider lethal, but you have mastered the very force that would destroy us. Your nuclear power plants, your radiation therapy devices, your ability to work with radioactive materials, these things are beyond our comprehension." Sarah couldn't help but smile at the irony. Humanity had spent centuries viewing their planet's radiation as a challenge to overcome, never realizing it was actually their greatest advantage. "We've learned to work with radiation rather than fear it," she explained. "It's been key to our technological development, our medical treatments, even our space exploration." The Nevarans shared their own history, tales of civilizations that had risen among the stars, all evolving on worlds with minimal radiation. They spoke of vast regions of space that remained unexplored because the radiation levels were too dangerous for their species to approach. "Your people could go where we cannot," the speaker said, their crystalline form shimming with what seemed like excitement. "You could study phenomena we can only observe from a distance, help us understand the universe in ways we never could alone." As the meeting concluded, Sarah realized that humanity had just discovered something profound about their place in the cosmos. They weren't just another spacefaring race. They were unique, adapted to conditions that most alien species considered impossible. Their perceived weakness was actually their greatest strength. "We've spent so long looking to the stars," she said to Marcus as they watched the Nevaran ship through the station's observation window, its radiation signature now a familiar pattern on their sensors, "wondering if we'd measure up to whatever we found out there. And all along, the very thing we thought made our world harsh and dangerous is what makes us special." The Nevarans had come seeking to understand an anomaly. Instead, they had found something far more valuable, a species that could help them explore the parts of the universe they never could. And for humanity, it was just the beginning of a journey that would redefine their understanding of their own nature and their place among the stars. As Sarah updated her research logs that evening, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had just taken its first steps into a larger universe, and they had done so not by conquering their world's radiation, but by embracing it. The future that awaited them would be unlike anything they had imagined, and it would be shaped by the very force they had evolved alongside since the beginning of their species. Children of the hot Earth. 3 months after first contact, the Helios Deep Space Research Station had become humanity's primary hub for interstellar diplomacy. Dr. Sarah Chen watched through heavily shielded windows as another alien delegation arrived, their ship's protective coating gleaming under the distant sunlight. This time, it was the Meridian Alliance, a coalition of species that had specifically requested to study human radiation resistance. "They still can't believe we operate nuclear submarines," Marcus commented beside her, reviewing the latest diplomatic briefing. "The idea of humans living next to a reactor for months at a time seems to terrify them." Sarah nodded, remembering the Nevarans' similar reaction. In the months since first contact, humanity had learned just how unique their relationship with radiation truly was. While other species had developed advanced technologies in many areas, their inability to work directly with radioactive materials had created blind spots in their scientific understanding. "Dr. Chen," a voice called from the communication station. "The Meridian representatives are ready for their briefing in Chamber 3. Sarah made her way to the specialized meeting room, where she found 3 alien species waiting. The Meridians were a fascinating sight. One species appeared to be made of living crystal, another had iridescent scales, and the third looked almost plant-like with phosphorescent tendrils. All wore elaborate radiation protection suits, even in the heavily shielded chamber. "We have reviewed your species' historical records," the crystalline being spoke through a translator. "Your people once split the atom without fully understanding the consequences. You suffered from radiation poisoning, yet you continued to develop nuclear technology. Why?" Sarah had prepared for this question. She brought up historical footage on the chamber's displays, images of the first nuclear tests, the development of nuclear power plants, and the evolution of radiation therapy for cancer treatment. "We learned from our mistakes," she explained. "Yes, we suffered setbacks and tragedies, but each failure taught us more about how to harness radiation safely. Our bodies evolved to repair radiation damage at a cellular level. When we understood this, we began developing technologies that worked with our natural resistance rather than against it." The plant-like being's tendrils rippled with what Sarah had learned to recognize as intense interest. Your medical uses of radiation particularly intrigue us. You deliberately expose your sick to controlled radiation doses. Radiotherapy has saved millions of lives. Sarah confirmed. We can target cancer cells with precision, using radiation to destroy them while minimizing damage to healthy tissue. Our natural radiation resistance makes this possible. Our healthy cells can recover from exposure levels that would be lethal to most species. The meeting continued for hours as the Meridians asked detailed questions about every aspect of human radiation technology. They were particularly fascinated by the protective suits human workers wore in high radiation environments. Primitive by their standards, yet remarkably effective thanks to human biology. Later that day, Sarah received an urgent message from Elena Rodriguez, who had been working with the Navarran scientists. Sarah, you need to see this. The xenobiologist's excitement was palpable even through the video feed. We've been comparing human DNA repair mechanisms with samples from other species. Our radiation resistance isn't just environmental adaptation. It's encoded into our genome in ways we never realized. The discovery sparked a new wave of collaborative research. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers, combining their different perspectives to understand how Earth's radiation had shaped human evolution. They found that human DNA repair mechanisms were not only more efficient than those of other species, but also more adaptable, capable of handling a wider range of radiation types and intensity levels. It's like we're specifically designed for this, Elena explained during a research briefing. Our ancestors didn't just survive Earth's radiation. They thrived because of it. Each generation became more resilient, more adaptable. We're not just radiation resistant, we're radiation optimized. The implications of these findings rippled through the scientific community. Human space programs, which had always treated radiation exposure as a primary challenge, began to reevaluate their approach. If humans were naturally better equipped to handle radiation than any known species, it opened up possibilities that other civilizations had never considered. The Meridians have made us an offer, Sarah announced to the station's senior staff one evening. They want to fund a joint research program. They believe our radiation resistance could be the key to exploring regions of space they've never been able to reach. Marcus leaned forward, intrigued. What kind of regions? Neutron star clusters, active galactic cores, areas of space with intense cosmic radiation, Sarah replied, pulling up a map of previously unexplored territories. Places where the background radiation levels are too high for their species to survive, even with their advanced technology. The revelation sparked a new understanding of humanity's potential role in the galactic community. They weren't just another spacefaring race joining the cosmic civilization. They were uniquely equipped to push the boundaries of exploration further than any species had gone before. We're not just adapting to the universe anymore, Sarah realized as she looked at the map of unexplored space. We're going to help reshape it. The very thing that made Earth seem uninhabitable to other species has given us the key to unlock the cosmos' greatest mysteries. As she prepared for another meeting with the alien delegations, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of destiny. Humanity had spent centuries looking to the stars, wondering what their place would be among them. Now they knew. They were the children of a hot Earth, evolved in radiation's crucible, uniquely suited to venture where others could not go. The journey ahead would be challenging, but humanity had never shied away from challenges. They had mastered the force that other species feared, and in doing so, had found their true calling among the stars. The children of Earth were ready to help lead the way into the unknown, one radioactive frontier at a time. The stellar crisis. The emergency alert woke Dr. Sarah Chen at 300 station time. As she rushed to the Helios station's command center, she could already feel the tension in the air. The room was filled with both human and alien scientists, all focused on the massive display showing a radiation storm of unprecedented magnitude. It appeared 6 hours ago, Marcus explained, his usual calm demeanor strained. The Meridian long-range sensors detected it first. It's like nothing we've ever seen. a cascade of radiation that's growing exponentially. The display showed a massive wave of energy emanating from a cluster of stars in the Carina sector. The radiation levels were off the charts, creating a deadly front that was expanding through populated space at an alarming rate. 3 inhabited systems lie directly in its path. The Meridian ambassador's translator conveyed their distress. Our colonies there have no defense against radiation of this magnitude. Even with our most advanced shielding, evacuation ships cannot approach safely. We estimate 14 million lives at risk. Sarah studied the data scrolling across her terminal. The radiation storm was being caused by a chain reaction of stellar events, a rare phenomenon where multiple stars were affecting each other's magnetic fields, creating a cascading wave of deadly radiation. "How long until it reaches the first colony?" she asked. 72 hours, the Nevaran speaker replied. "We have already begun evacuation attempts, but our ships cannot get close enough. The radiation levels are beyond our biological tolerance, even with our best protection." Elena Rodriguez, who had been analyzing the storm's composition, looked up from her station. "The radiation profile. It's intense, but it's not beyond what human crews could handle with proper shielding. Our natural resistance combined with our radiation protection technology." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The aliens turned to look at the humans, their various forms expressing what Sarah had learned to recognize as hope. "You believe your species could survive those radiation levels?" the Meridian ambassador asked. Sarah ran quick calculations through her terminal. "Not just survive. With proper protection and limited exposure times, human crews could operate in that environment. We've handled similar radiation levels during nuclear accidents and space station emergencies." "We would need multiple ships," Marcus added, already working on logistics. "Teams would have to rotate to limit exposure. But yes, human crews could reach those colonies." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Every available human ship in the sector was redirected to the crisis. Sarah found herself coordinating with fleet commanders and scientific teams, helping develop protection protocols for what would be the most intense radiation environment humans had ever deliberately entered. "The good news is we're not starting from scratch," she explained during the emergency briefing. "Our experience with nuclear submarines and power plant operations gives us a foundation. We'll need to modify our radiation suits for higher tolerance, but the basic principles are the same." 24 hours later, the first human ships arrived at the edge of the radiation storm. Sarah watched from the Helios station's command center as the crews began their rescue mission. The radiation levels were staggering, enough to kill most alien species instantly, but the human crews pressed on. First colony reached, the report came in. Beginning evacuation procedures. Radiation exposure within acceptable limits. The rescue operation was unlike anything in human history. Ships worked in carefully coordinated shifts, their crews rotating every 4 hours to prevent dangerous radiation accumulation. The aliens watched in amazement as humans calmly operated in conditions they considered impossibly lethal. Ship crews reporting successful extraction from second colony, Marcus announced, monitoring the operation's progress. Local radiation levels continuing to rise, but our protective measures are holding. The severity of the situation became even clearer as the rescue efforts continued. The radiation storm was not only threatening lives, but was also destroying vital infrastructure. Several alien research stations in the affected zone contained irreplaceable scientific data. "We need volunteers for a data recovery mission," Sarah announced to the assembled ship captains. "The radiation levels near the research stations are twice what we've encountered so far. It's beyond our safety protocols." She expected hesitation, but instead, hands went up immediately. Humanity had spent generations learning to respect radiation's power while refusing to be paralyzed by fear of it. Now that hard-won experience was saving lives. The data recovery teams worked with incredible precision, their specialized suits glowing under the intense radiation. They moved through the abandoned research stations, retrieving crucial data cores while their ship's sensors tracked their exposure levels. Final colony evacuated. The report came in after 68 grueling hours. All critical research data recovered. Total casualties, 0. As the human ships withdrew from the radiation storm's path, carrying thousands of rescued aliens to safety, Sarah felt a profound shift in how their species was viewed by the galactic community. They weren't just an interesting anomaly anymore. They were protectors, capable of doing what no other species could. "Your people have done the impossible," the Meridian ambassador said during the post-crisis conference. "You ventured into conditions we considered certain death and emerged not only alive but triumphant. The 14 million lives you saved will never forget this." Sarah looked around the conference room at the mix of human and alien faces. "We've learned over our history that challenges often reveal hidden strengths. What seems like a curse can become a blessing if you learn to master it." The radiation storm continued its path through space, but thanks to humanity's unique abilities, it passed through empty systems instead of inhabited ones. The crisis had revealed something important about humanity's role in the galaxy. They weren't just explorers or scientists. They were guardians, uniquely equipped to face dangers that would destroy other species. As she logged the final report on the crisis, Sarah realized that humanity had passed a crucial test. They had proven that their radiation resistance wasn't just a scientific curiosity. It was a vital trait that could help protect and preserve life throughout the galaxy. The children of Earth's radioactive cradle had become the shields of the stars. Operation Sunforge. Captain Maya Patel stood on the bridge of the ECS Hyperion, studying the swirling patterns of the radiation storm through specially designed viewports. The massive energy disturbance that had forced the evacuation of 3 star systems showed no signs of dissipating. If anything, it was growing stronger. "Latest sensor readings confirm our fears," Dr. Sarah Chen's voice came through the quantum comm. "The storm is accelerating. At current rates, it will reach the Meridian core worlds in less than 2 months. We're looking at potential casualties in the billions." Maya watched her crew working at their stations, each wearing the enhanced radiation suits that had become standard issue after the evacuation crisis. The Hyperion was humanity's most advanced radiation-hardened vessel, built using a combination of Earth technology and alien materials. But even its impressive shielding would be tested by what they were about to attempt. Dr. Rodriguez's theory about the storm's source checks out, her science officer, Dr. James Foster, reported. "The radiation cascade is being driven by a chain reaction in the magnetic fields of 3 unstable stars. If we could disrupt that pattern, we could stop the storm at its source," Maya finished. She opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, this is Captain Patel. Operation Sunforge is now in effect. Form up on my position." 5 other Earth ships moved into formation around the Hyperion, their hulls gleaming with radiation-resistant coating. Each vessel carried specialized equipment designed for this mission, the most ambitious attempt to control stellar radiation in human history. "The Meridian sensors are in position," Sarah reported from Helios Station. "They'll monitor the operation from a safe distance. Remember, you'll be working with radiation levels far beyond anything we've encountered before. Your suits and ships can only take so much." Maya nodded, though she knew Sarah couldn't see it. "Understood. We've trained for this. Each ship knows their role. We go in, set up the field generators, and get out before the radiation exposure becomes critical." The plan was audacious. Use modified magnetic field generators to disrupt the resonance pattern between the 3 stars, breaking the chain reaction that was feeding the radiation storm. The aliens had deemed it impossible, as no known species could survive long enough near the stars to deploy the equipment. But humans had spent generations working with nuclear power, dealing with radiation accidents, and developing protection against their world's natural radioactivity. If anyone could do this, they could. "All ships report ready," James announced. "Field generators primed and initialized." Maya took a deep breath. "Begin approach. Maximum shields. Activate radiation hardening protocols." The 6 ships moved forward in perfect formation, entering the outer edges of the radiation storm. Warning alarms immediately began blaring throughout the fleet as radiation levels soared beyond safety parameters. But the crews, protected by their advanced suits and their species' natural resistance, remained focused on their tasks. First generator array deploying, reported the ECS Prometheus. Radiation exposure approaching critical levels, but we can hold position for another 10 minutes. One by one, the ships positioned their field generators, creating a network of magnetic fields designed to interrupt the stellar resonance. The radiation levels continued to climb, forcing the ships to rotate positions frequently to prevent dangerous exposure accumulation. "Captain," James called out suddenly. "The stellar resonance is shifting. It's having an effect, but—" He paused, rechecking his readings. "The disruption is creating a localized surge. Radiation levels are about to spike." Maya made a split-second decision. All ships fall back to safe distance. Hyperion will remain to finish calibrating the field network. "Captain," her first officer protested, "even with our protection, those radiation levels will be lethal within minutes." "We won't need minutes," Maya replied, her hands flying over her console. "Just long enough to synchronize the fields. Everyone else out." "That's an order." The other ships retreated as the Hyperion held position. The radiation surge hit like a physical force, making the ship's structure groan. Warning systems screamed as radiation levels exceeded all known safety limits. Maya could feel the heat even through her suit, but she kept working, making the minute adjustments needed to align the magnetic fields. 30 seconds to critical exposure, James reported, his voice strained. "Almost there," Maya muttered, watching the field harmonics align. "Just a few more seconds." The ship shuddered as another wave of radiation washed over it. Then suddenly, the readings began to change. The stellar resonance pattern broke down, and the radiation levels started to drop. "It's working." Sarah's voice came through the comm. "The storm is collapsing. Get out of there now." Maya didn't need to be told twice. Emergency thrust. Get us clear. The Hyperion's engines roared as the ship retreated from the disintegrating storm. Behind them, the massive wave of radiation that had threatened billions began to dissipate as the stellar chain reaction finally broke down. Hours later, Maya stood in the Hyperion's medical bay, receiving treatment for radiation exposure. Despite their protection, everyone who had stayed aboard had absorbed dangerous levels of radiation. But thanks to their human physiology, they would recover. "The Meridian Alliance is calling it a miracle," Sarah told her through the medbay's comm. "They'd never seen anything like it. You didn't just save lives. You did something they thought was impossible." Maya smiled, though it hurt to move. "We just did what humans have always done. We saw a problem, figured out a solution, and didn't let a little radiation stop us from fixing it." As she rested, Maya reflected on how far humanity had come. Their ancestors had feared radiation, seeing it as a deadly force to be contained. Now they had used their mastery of it to save countless lives. The radiation that had shaped their evolution had become their greatest tool for protecting the galaxy. The success of Operation Sunforge marked a turning point. Humanity had proven they could do more than just survive in high radiation environments. They could actively work to make them safer for all species. Their unique abilities had given them not just an advantage, but a responsibility to use that advantage for the good of all. Legacy of the Radiant. 1 year after Operation Sunforge, the Helios Deep Space Research Station had transformed into something its designers never imagined. The station now served as the headquarters for the newly formed Radiation Response Force, a joint human-alien initiative dedicated to handling stellar emergencies throughout known space. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the station's newly constructed observation dome, watching as another group of human ships departed for their assignments. The vessels carried specialized crews trained to work in high radiation environments, ready to protect vulnerable species from dangers they couldn't face themselves. The latest batch of volunteers, Dr. Elena Rodriguez asked, joining her at the window. The xenobiologist had become the leading expert on comparing human radiation resistance with alien biology. Heading to the Carina sector, Sarah confirmed. The Meridians detected early signs of stellar instability in one of their core systems. They want human teams on site before anything develops. The success of Operation Sunforge had changed everything. Humanity's ability to not just survive, but work effectively in high radiation environments had transformed them from curiosities into essential allies. Their ships now patrolled the most dangerous regions of space, monitoring radiation levels and responding to emergencies that would kill other species. The Nevarin research team has made a breakthrough, Elena said, pulling up data on her tablet. They've been studying our DNA repair mechanisms. Combined with their biotechnology, they think they might be able to enhance other species' radiation resistance. Not to our level, but enough to expand their safe operating range. Sarah smiled. From Death World survivors to teachers, who would have thought? The station's alert system chimed softly, indicating an incoming transmission. A holographic display materialized, showing Captain Maya Patel. The hero of Operation Sunforge had recovered from her radiation exposure and now commanded humanity's first dedicated radiation crisis response vessel. Sarah, you're going to want to see this, Maya said, her expression excited. We've been mapping radiation patterns in the galactic core region. There's something here, artificial structures in zones everyone thought were uninhabitable. The discovery sent shockwaves through the galactic scientific community. The structures appeared to be ancient installations built by an unknown species that must have had their own way of handling extreme radiation. They had been overlooked for centuries because no known species could survive long enough in the core regions to detect them. It makes perfect sense, Marcus commented during the emergency conference. We couldn't have been the first species to evolve on a high radiation world. These installations could be the legacy of others like us. The Meridian ambassador's crystalline form sparkled with excitement. This could revolutionize our understanding of galactic history. Entire civilizations might have risen and fallen in regions we thought were uninhabitable. But we need your help to explore these sites. A joint expedition was quickly organized. Human ships would protect alien research vessels, allowing them to study the ancient installations safely. It was the largest cooperative project ever attempted between Earth and the galactic community. As preparations continued, Sarah found herself working with a young human cadet named Michael Torres, who had just joined the Radiation Response Force. I never thought being from Earth would make us special, he admitted during a training session. We spent so long thinking our planet's radiation was a problem to overcome. Now it's our greatest strength. Sarah nodded, remembering her own similar thoughts during first contact. We learned to live with radiation, then learned to use it, and finally mastered it. But the most important thing we learned was how to share that mastery with others. The expedition to the galactic core would mark the beginning of a new era. Human ships would lead the way, protected by their natural resistance and generations of experience handling radiation. They would serve as guides and guardians, allowing other species to safely study regions of space they never could have approached before. We're establishing permanent monitoring stations in high radiation zones, Maya reported during her regular update. Mixed crews, humans handling the high-exposure areas, other species managing research and support functions from shielded sections. The cooperation is amazing to see. The station's main display showed a map of known space, with human patrol routes marked in green. They covered the most dangerous regions, areas near unstable stars, zones of intense cosmic radiation, and sectors prone to radiation storms. Earth's children had become the protectors of the cosmic frontiers. The Nevarins have a new name for us, Alina mentioned one evening, as they watched another team of human ships depart. They're calling us the Radiant Ones, those who emerged from radiation's crucible to master its power. Sarah thought about how far they had come. From a species that feared radiation's deadly touch to one that had learned to embrace it, understand it, and finally use it to protect others. Their planet's harsh conditions hadn't just made them strong, They had prepared humanity for a unique role in the galaxy. We're not just exploring space anymore, she realized. We're making it safer for everyone. Our ancestors looked up at the stars and saw barriers of deadly radiation. We've turned those barriers into bridges. As she watched the ships disappear into the darkness of space, Sarah knew that humanity had found its true calling. They were the children of a radioactive world, evolved to thrive where others could not survive. And in that uniqueness, they had found not isolation, but purpose, to use their special ability to protect and guide other species, to explore the unknown, and to make the dangerous corners of the galaxy accessible to all. The legacy of humanity's radiation mastery would echo through the centuries to come, not as a story of conquest or dominance, but as one of protection, discovery, and cooperation. They had become the guardians of the cosmic frontiers, the shepherds of the stars, and the bridges between the deadly and the divine.